What's going on, y'all? I'm back with another quick volume of Welcome to the Franchise here. Just want to tap back in with what's been going on in the NBA recently. The playoffs is going to start soon, probably within about a week, right? The last leg of the season here. So just want to tap into some of the storylines of how maybe the playing seeds have been shaping up. And then also talk a little bit about, the NBA draft prospects. March Madness actually has been a little bit more entertaining than I expected from the games that I have caught. We went down from the Sweet 16 to the Elite 8 and now down to the Final Four. I actually watched some games and seen some players doing some things, so I'm going to tap into a little bit of that also. But first, let me start it off right now and get straight into it with what's been going on with the Memphis Grizzlies, who are top seed heading into the playoffs. I think they're number 4 or 5 between them and the Lakers, going back and forth there with the games. So the Memphis Grizzlies, they just fired the head coach Taylor Jenkins, right? Honestly, this is, to me, it just reminds me of the same type of cycle that a team like the Grizzlies has been in for the last 5+ years. It seems like they always have a good roster together that has some grit to them, or they're really entertaining, they're scrappy, and they're usually a team that you got to watch out for in the playoffs or throughout the season leading into the playoffs. But it seems like it's the same cycle. They find a way to shoot themselves in the foot, or they get bumped in the first round after being a top seed, or in the second round they play a real opponent, and they just can't get it together. I don't know whether it's from the front office to the coaching to the players down on the floor there, but it's like they don't really get over the hump. But there's always some kind of confusion going on. Like, damn, the Grizzlies, they got this player, they got that player, they got this going on. They look like they hot, but they just can't never fucking win. They can't never get out of the first or the second round. And now with Taylor Jenkins being fired, and they're gonna fire him right before the playoffs, basically, this shit is a bad look, and I think it's a mistake. I think that Taylor Jenkins in the last few years, especially with coaching Jaren Jackson Jr., Bane, the rest of the young guys there, I feel like he's done a pretty good job and got them really into relevance and really believing in themselves as far as the young players, and also, having us as fans keep an eye on. Damn, you got to watch out for the Memphis Grizzlies team, because, they scrappy, they balling, and they might fuck around and knock somebody off, or they might fuck around and challenge a team like OKC in the Western Conference Finals. I feel like as fans watching the game, we kind of had thought that the last maybe couple years, or pre-Ja getting into situations off the court and all that shit. But I think that this is a mistake, and it's just another one of those things. Like I said, it seems like Memphis is shooting themselves in the foot. You're going to fire a good coach that you have. Your star player can't stay healthy or can't stay on the court for whatever reason. The past few seasons, you got that going on. Then the players that are on the court that are nice, they get their props and shit, like the Desmond Baines and the Jaren Jacksons of the world and shit like that, and they can't, for whatever reason, at this time of the year, later in the year, or at this time of the year when it goes into the playoffs, they can't execute and get the wins you really need to make a statement and be like, yo, we're here. And now you got the assistant coach, who's now the new head coach, who is rumored to be an overpaid assistant coach. From what I was able to see from a quick little story and hear from someone, that he was paid really high. So it seemed like the fix was in from the beginning of the season, or before the beginning of the season, that Taylor Jenkins was probably eventually going to be out of there, and they wanted to get their guy in there, whoever this motherfucker is. But like I said, I still think this is a mistake, especially right before the playoffs, when you most likely got to go up against the Lakers in the first round. That shit is dumb as hell, because you're most likely going to get bumped. The Lakers got the experience. They got 3 playmakers and a couple guys off the bench in the starting lineup that can make plays as well. And, this matchup between y'all, for the past few years, the Lakers have got the better of y'all, and I don't see it going a different way, especially with Ja being out of the lineup for so long. Then you fire your coach. Then you got teammates fighting each other on the bench and shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, whatever that situation is about, even if Desmond Bain is trying to challenge his teammate to just step up, play a little bit more defense, or show his leadership in that way. But I don't know, it just all looks in disarray. It's not a good look at all. And I just don't see Memphis pulling out of the first round again. They're going to be that type of team again where it's just like, yo, all this talent, all the scrappiness, all the grit. They could shoot threes, they could play some defense, they can make some plays and shit. But at the end of the day, they're not executing all the way. To get those meaningful wins and what they need to do to get over the top. And I caught a couple Memphis games, I would say, probably last month. And at times it just seemed like when Ja was on the floor also, it didn't seem like they had an offensive game plan or a scheme that was really working. Like, move the ball around, do something. Let's not just have John Morant try and pull something out his ass and make a play or try and get a score or do some crazy play here. I felt like I was seeing that whenever I did catch a Memphis Grizzlies game. But I don't know, maybe Jenkins lost the locker room. Maybe he didn't really come up with any new schemes or innovative schemes to really get the offense going or get it in motion and really beat these top-tier teams that have maybe more veteran leadership and experience than they do, because the Grizzlies are still young. They're veterans, but they're young vets. They still got some growing pains, it looks like. They still got to go through. But they got to fix this shit up. It's not a good look. I think it's dumb, and honestly, I see them getting bumped in the first round like usual. And next I want to move into, where they're getting into the playoffs here. The playing team chase right now in the West is looking wild right now. It's looking real wild in the West. Obviously, like I was kind of touched on there with the 4 and 5 seed with the Lakers, but it's about like all the seeds from seeds 4 to 8. They're about a game or two out of like the 5th or the fourth seed. What all of them trying to stay out of the play-in or get their seed in and get that 6th seed there between like the Warriors, and you got like the Warriors, the T-Wolves, Clippers in there. And then also I think the Grizzlies in there. They're all like, it seems like all their records are around the same thing. So within this last stretch here, depending on who's really hungry and who's really going to close out on like a good win streak, that shit could fucking change from 5 to 8. And I know that there's teams like the T-Wolves or the Clippers and the Warriors, they want to try and really be in that 6th spot. The Warriors climbed their way up to being in that 6th spot, and they want to stay there. But those are the teams that are really making it interesting right now in this last stretch of the season, minus teams like the Mavs, the Kings, and the Suns. And it's crazy, the Mavs are still in there. Mavs are at number 9 right now, even though they don't even really have anybody yet. They're the walking wounded over there with all the fucking injuries they got and shit. And they were talking about at one point they may have to have forfeit some games. So it's kind of crazy seeing them in the playing scenario. But then you got the Suns, and you're seeing him most recently that KD is going to be out with a sprained ankle for a week. And I think with that, I think it's clipped. It's clipped. You got a whole week. The Suns have been kind of on fire the last week and a half or so. Now KD goes down. You might be out of the play-in overall if you lose those games with him being out for a week. And then the other thing too is, even if he does come back and they make the play-in, it's still clipped. We've all seen with our eyes. We've all seen what's going throughout the season here, that this team that they constructed together, it just doesn't work. It's not a good fit. It's not a good look. Blow the whole shit up. It's a wrap. And honestly, from a fan standpoint, it would be cool to see Book get out of there, but we know Book is the heart and soul of that franchise, so he ain't going anywhere. Bill don't want to waive his no trade deal, and I think he's one of the bigger problems out of everyone there. But it's time to blow that whole shit up. KD's gonna be gone after this season anyway. Even if you make the play-in, it's clipped. You're gonna get bumped in the first game, or even if you do make it as an 8 seed, you're gonna get bumped in the first round, and then just pack it up. That's it. So honestly, if they did miss the play-in because he's out with this bad ankle sprain for a week and everything, it might just be a blessing in disguise to start the process of just really getting shit together for next season and really trying to build an actual team that's going to make sense, that's going to be more cohesive, to get some real fucking wins and get back to where they were a few seasons ago, even before the KD trade. and a little bit after the KD trade, where people were worried about them in the playoffs because it's clipped. It's over. It ain't gonna happen this year with them being a threat. The Rockets right now, they're on fire. You know, they just lost a close one to the Lakers, but they kept it real interesting throughout the whole game and real competitive. But my thing is that I think teams like the Rockets, I think the Nuggets are at number 3 right now. I think those are 2 teams that, depending on who the 6, 7, or 8 seeds are going to be, they may not want to see some of these teams at the bottom in the first round. It may go to 7 games. It may go to 6 or 7 games where they might get bumped in the first round there, because some of these teams that they played at the bottom there, they have lost to, like the Timberwolves of the world, you know, and like the Clippers of the world. Maybe even the Warriors, if they're there, they could give both of those teams some work in the first round where they might fuck around and pull off the upset. So it's gonna be real interesting to see how it all shapes out at the end of it, and I'm definitely excited for this first round here. Last year's first round was exciting, and second round was more exciting than the conference. You know, the conference finals on both sides. So I look forward to seeing how, you know, the first round is gonna shape out here, especially after all the playing bullshit when they do all of that. But now, just to wrap up this volume here, I just want to have a couple quick takes right now on the NBA draft prospects coming out. And, you know, we're going into the Final Four, so that season's about to be over soon with college basketball. I know in my previous volume I spoke something about, you know, I don't really pay attention too much to the men's side as much as the women's side when it comes to college basketball, to the tournament. But I had to call myself out here and be like, listen, the reason why we don't pay attention or we don't know who's who is because you're not actually watching. I actually got a chance to catch some of these games, and I was seeing some players put in work, some prospects really. I'm like, okay, this motherfucker nice. So I had to call myself out there as a fan and be like, listen, you know what? You can't talk shit on a bunch of shit that you're not gonna actually take the time to really watch and see. But I could talk more on that later and everything. Right now, I just want to get into the prospects. Of course, with the hype around Cooper Flagg being the number 1 prospect, you know, one of the things that I'm hearing out there is how the hype is so big right now, and you're hearing people even say shit like he's as good a prospect as Jason Tatum when he came out of Duke. And I'm like, yo, these motherfuckers are smoking crack right now. Like, they wilding. I don't see that. Don't get me wrong. I think Cooper Flagg is he's a real good basketball player. He's nice. He's got all the tools and everything like that to be a good pro or a good basketball player, right? Averaging 18. He could shoot. He could pass. He could rebound. But I just don't see all the big hype around how people are trying to make it. I see some crazy comps. I seen one of the comps was Kevin Garnett at one point in one of these articles. I'm like, nah, they wilding now. They dragging it. I seen a comp though that says, somebody said it, Kevin Love, but I think they said it in the way it was relayed. It was kind of negative in a bad way. And I'm not gonna lie, I see the same thing, but a Kevin Love comp is not a bad thing. He may not look like the Kevin Love when he came out of UCLA and he was shitting those first few years with the T-Wolves, but the way his game, how I've been seeing it, the way he plays, he's Kevin Love in a good way, the veteran Kevin Love when he was on those Cavaliers teams still putting in work. And then those first few years when he was still with Miami when he was actually getting burned, Kevin Love is still a really, really great player. Not currently, but I'm just talking about a really great player career-wise. He had a really good career. He's a champion, and I think he was a good prospect coming out of UCLA when he came out as well. So the way it was relayed, it may have been a little bit negative, but all the other shit where they talking like he a better prospect than when Zion came out of Duke and all these other motherfuckers. I'm like, nah, y'all wildin'. He not that nice. He's nice, but he ain't that nice. But I like the Kevin Love comp. I think what I see is a dude, and it's funny because I think he's going to end up getting drafted by the Jazz. I think the Jazz are trying to gear up for the next couple of years of some number 1 picks to make their team really be exciting in the next few years. But I think his comp is like Andre Kirilenko. That's who he reminds me of when I watch his game, when I watch him play. He looks like Andre Kirilenko, and he looks a little bit like a veteran style Kevin Love. That's what I see there. And I think that that's fine if you're going to be there as the #1 pick and have that type of career. Is he going to be doing all this crazy shit and everything like people are hyping in the league? I really don't think so. I think he needs to work on his dribble game. I don't really see no handle, no bag like that for real. He could get to his spots, yeah, but you're playing against college kids and kids that are also, 1 year, 2 years removed from high school. In the NBA, I don't think you're really doing all that shit. When you're getting to your spots, you can make a couple little moves behind the back or through your legs and then get your jump shot off and everything or get to the paint. Because I don't really see no bag. I don't see that he could get by people very easily, but still a good player. And like I said, I see Andre Kirilenko. Some of the other players here, I think, are going to be pretty good. You got Ace Bailey out of Rutgers, along with his running mate Dylan Harper, who looks pretty good out of Rutgers as well. I think Dylan Harper is going to be a pretty good player as well. Looks like a playmaker who could do it all. Could be a really solid, point guard or combo guard in the league. And then you got a guy like VJ Edgecombe out of Baylor. I mean, he looks good. He looks good from seeing some of the YouTube highlights of him. And then also I caught a couple games of him in the tournament. He looks like he's a really explosive athlete. He could get to his spots and he could score and everything. And it looks like he'll probably be a really solid pro in the league. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he'll be like a big superstar or a must-see, eye-popping star. But I think he'll be a solid pro in the league. But you also got guys out there like Derek Queen, got Malowatch, and then a couple other guys I seen last week in the tournament games playing. I just like the way they play. I think they could be good pros, good role players to add a little pop at some point in their career. Guys like Danny Wolf out of Michigan and Con Knuppel from Duke. I've seen Con Knuppel make a couple little moves and some nice shots, and he's a gamer. He look like he want to ball out there and really, get his nose in there and try and make some plays. So I think that, if those kind of guys end up in the right spots, it's about fit also. And to me, the NBA draft is kind of funny. I feel like motherfuckers just draft just because, it says you have to slot. It says this name is slotted here to be drafted, so you have to draft them, even if you have, 2 centers on your roster already that are getting playing time. Or if you have 3 guards on your roster already, it's like you don't have to pick them just because the name is slotted there and they're the best point guard. Get what you need and fill the other positions while he's good at that. But I could talk about that another time. But yeah, I think guys like Derek Queen and Malowatch, they're going to be good pros in the league also. But I'll say this, I'll circle back to Ace Bailey. I think that he's going to be one of the best players in this class. Honestly, I think he's more explosive, a little bit more of a bag and an arsenal to his offensive game, and more athleticism than Cooper Flagg to me. I think Cooper Flagg is, if you want the solid, sure pro, steady, stable career or stable piece to your franchise, yeah. But Ace Bailey, I think, is going to be one of the best players in this class, and I think he has more, explosive ability scoring wise and athleticism wise and everything than Cooper Flagg. And then, like I said, Dylan Harper, I think, could do it all. Looks like he could rebound, he could pass, he could play defense, he could shoot, he could score, he could facilitate. So I think those top prospects there. It's gonna be interesting to see how they do in the league, and I can't wait. For a long time, like I said in the previous video, I don't pay attention to mock drafts and pay attention to NBA draft in a long time, but this is probably the first time in a while that I'm kind of interested, because there are a lot of different personalities I've seen after actually watching this tournament and seeing these players play. There's a lot of different players that, add different elements to the game where you're going to want to see them on some teams and maybe want to watch them further on in their careers. But that's going to wrap up this quick volume of Welcome to the Franchise here with me today. Y'all out there, be easy.